There you go. You look like a biker.
There you go.
Hey, where is everybody? Who is Samo?
Who is everybody?
Who is Samo? That's
Who
the
is
question
everybody?
tonight that we have to ask. So we're here tonight live. We have a smaller than expected studio. We have Jay Sayers in the audience. Braze. Thank you, Jay, for
Thank you
stopping
for
in.
coming, Jay.
Jay, you're awesome. And Jay got some great conversations started that I had to ask him to save for the show. But
Yeah.
why do we call it Jawbreaker? Because I think we have something in common with Samo, because we were thinking in terms of conversation, jawboning it, enjoying it up, and that kind of thing. So we have Jawbreaker as the title. Now, we have three guys here on the stage right now that are pretty much about the same age. And I just wanted to point out something, that the skies seem darker and more ominous. The clouds seem more dramatic. We've just gone through a storm that I've never experienced in my life before. I'm a native Staten Islander, so things change all the time. We go through a lot of life events, and that's what we're here to talk about. We'd like to talk to two very special guests tonight, part of the trio of Samo. We have the writers. We have the writers here, these two awesome gentlemen. Al Diaz, who was part of Samo with Jean-Michel Basquiat, and we have Flint Gennari, who was part of that group. And they started to explain where Flint fit into the picture. And as you can see, we both, Al commented on it too. Flint is wearing the motto of the night tonight: no art, no music, no life. And a little while later, I'd like to get into just imagine life without music. And I think when I've heard the all three of us, I think, have music in our backgrounds, and realize how valuable and precious that was to us. Would you like to get started with that? I mean, Flint, I know you talked about, I just saw you in a recent interview where the questioner asked you other influences that you had in your life on art, and you brought up rock and roll. Would you like to talk a little bit about how important music is to you?
Of course, of course.
Is that you need that a little higher, Kenny, or
Can you hear me?
good?
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Flint.
So, always liked music. Now, I'm not a natural musician. A natural musician is somebody that has good ears, and they could actually pick out a song and play it. I'm not like that at all. Matter of fact, I actually supposed to wear two hearing aids, one in each ear. I cannot hear low tones, I cannot hear high tones, but that doesn't stop me from playing music. And I started photographing a band across the street when I was 9 years old. And as they broke up, I moved in and started being there more and more. And my friend Chopper was the guitar player, his brother Moby was the bass player, and I learned how to play guitar like that. And I had a talent for writing songs. Can't sing too good, but I can sing in certain keys. But the question always came up whenever I jam with musicians. It's like, well, can't you hear this? Can't you hear that? I said, like, no, I can't, you know. So basically, visually, I see what they're playing, and I try to play along. That's it. So all I got to say about that is that you could do whatever you want to do in life. You don't have to be like the greatest, but you could actually make progress in your life because your life is long, hopefully, and by doing little by little, you could actually make progress, and that's what happened to me.
Was the hearing loss due to listening to the loud music?
No,
or?
the story is that, yeah, that would be good. Yeah, we did play in a small basement, and that happened a lot too, where it's very loud. But I was actually a premature baby, so I was developed very slowly. Couldn't speak in the beginning. Had to go to a lot of speech classes. There was a lot of stuff.
So did Einstein.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff in my mucus, in my. They had to always put tubes in my mouth, my nose, all sorts of weird stuff like that. And to tell you the truth, this is what led me to graffiti, actually, because I was so, I don't know what the word is, but worthless or looked down upon.
Traumatized.
Yeah.
Traumatized. I've been traumatized. I guess we were all traumatized as youth. We were all about the same age. Me and Al were talking earlier about,
Yes.
I think all three of us just missed Vietnam. I know our mothers were worried sick about us getting there, so we've gone through a lot in life. And the other thing we were talking about was how is it that people that were so varied, like I have this image, and I think a lot of people do, of the graffiti community as guys that already knew each other. But you guys seem so disparate, so varied, and came together. You mentioned your story. Would you like to talk a little bit about it, Al? Like, how did you guys, so varied personalities and backgrounds come together and do something so great?
I mean, the way I found out about graffiti culture was because when I started in '71, there was nobody really doing like name and number tags in the Lower East Side.
Right.
There was gang graffiti and stuff like that. But I had a cousin who grew up and lived in the Upper West Side and Washington Heights. And Washington Heights is definitely one of the spawning grounds for like what has become graffiti culture,
right.
New York oriented graffiti culture. And so me going up there, I was exposed to it, and I think that's what happened throughout the city, is that people who traveled to other neighborhoods where it was happening imported it back to their groups, and that's how, and so on and so forth, like a family tree. It just spread, that way.
So there were a lot of people doing it.
Well, I can't imagine that I'm the only kid in New York City that had a cousin in some other neighborhood.
So did you guys get into trouble making your graffiti?
And
I'm talking
every other day. It was about getting into trouble.
I'm talking about the kind of trouble where it was actually reported to your mom.
Yeah. Well, to your
That's kind of trouble.
All the time.
Reported to mom, right?
Right. Well,
So you said it was about trouble. So it was.
It was a
rebelling?
mischievous and delinquent act. It wasn't, it wasn't like this fun artistic thing. I mean, fun, yes, but in a delinquent way. It was very. You were daring. It was a bravado kind of thing. It was that you were out there. Sometimes you get into fights with other. There was nothing innocent about it. It wasn't this kind of like goody boy type activity.
It sounds exciting.
It was exciting. There was camaraderie. We built friendships, but it was daring and it was risky and it was dangerous and it was about taking risks. It wasn't,
So there was an adrenaline rush.
There was a sport mentality.
Okay, great.
It wasn't really an artistic venture per se. Yeah. It became that. Once you start developing a style and wanting your letters to look a certain way, there's artistic input. But the drive is always this, it's more of a pissing contest. You're competing with your peers, and you want to make your name visible. You want to see it every day. You want to be popular. So it's driven by that, and not so much this kind of, this. It's not it's not an innocent act, or it wasn't, especially for my generation, our generation. It was not an innocent activity. You knew that
You were breaking
if you were doing it, you were going to get chased. I mean, you're going to get your ass whipped by somebody,
Right.
a property owner, truck driver, a cop, a train conductor, or whatever.
So you were looking at it every angle that you
right.
could have
So
gotten.
it wasn't just like ha ha, you know. It's like there was a lot of risk involved.
To be honest, though, in the 70s, the private property rules were a little bit iffy in New York City. A little
Well,
bit.
it depends. I mean, if you went out to Queens and you rode on somebody's van, you're liable to get your face smashed in by an irate plumber or something. You know, you just rode on the side of his truck.
So what about the wars between writers and between? There's always that myth that back in the day, right? And I've seen less of it, and I just saw it recently. I'd like to bring it up too. That you had the writers that would write over each other, and then you'd hear all those myths that was like really.
Sometimes it was just by accident, and then
Okay.
other times it was malicious, and I mean it's a microcosm of the real world. There was race related fights. There was fights, territory fights. There were people didn't want you using their layup or their yard. It's just like the real world, you know. And then like there's, like white guys from like out in the Far Rockaway area that were enemies with Puerto Ricans and black guys from different parts of town. So it was like, I mean, yeah, there was any number of reasons and not one.
So that's really interesting that you say that, because now all of a sudden we have two parts of a trio here. We have Jean-Michel, black, Haitian, right? We have Al Diaz, Puerto Rican New Yorker. We have Flint Gennari, Italian American New Yorker, right? So you're just talking about the racial tensions involved in it, but here you have the trio of you guys, which was a little bit different than your average trio of writers.
Well, we weren't exactly a trio.
You were, okay.
I mean, me and Jean did the same graffiti, but we were influenced by Flint's template.
I'd love to hear that,
style,
about how you were influenced by
the fact
Flint.
that Flint wrote in a very clear print and
Right.
used an ellipsis, which is the ... Was we chose that as our template for making a clear message, something that could be read by not only graffiti artists, which is mostly what drove. Most graffiti was written by graffiti artists for other graffiti artists.
Right.
It's our language within our community, so that it's showing off to your peers, as opposed to showing off to somebody's mom. But what we were doing was we wanted to talk to somebody's mom, We wanted to talk to the businessman, to everyone, as opposed
and
to
I think the
a
same
select few.
I think the same old messages were very clear.
Well, that's what the idea was in terms of using a legible font, which is what Flint is famous for bringing to the game.
So writers were different than graffiti writers are different than graffiti artists.
Well, I don't know if there's the
same as writers are no different.
Semantical
Right,
thing.
okay.
It depends. Some people don't want to use or call themselves artists because, like, say, take a person like Taki 183. Taki 183 is a gifted auto mechanic and a wonderful person who never pretends to be an artist. He does not want to. He's like, I'm not an artist. I wrote graffiti. So he doesn't relate to the whole artist thing,
Right.
which is,
Right.
him being honest with himself, and that's how he describes himself. But there are some graffiti artists who have artistic talents, or graffiti writers, whatever, and do more artistic work. Take Lee Quinones of the Fabulous Five. His work, he elevated the whole. The whole train car, doing like these big murals on the sides of trains, and that was an artistic ambition. That there was a lot of he was pushing for a more artistic end product as opposed to just a tag, which is my generation. We were we wanted volume, and we wanted you know.
But
we were
you're both doing murals, so to speak, now, right? You're both involved more or less in mural projects
but
now?
I don't do murals.
Not murals per se, right.
with pictures per
Right,
se.
mhm.
I don't draw like a big face or something.
Right.
You know?
Okay.
I'll do large words. So I've always been motivated by the text, by the message.
Yes.
That's why I still work in text now.
Yeah.
But and it's artistic in the way the way I go about it. But as opposed to because I mean text can be art as well.
Oh, I
So
definitely get that. It's poetry,
it's,
what you
yeah.
write, Al. It's enigmatic. It's mysterious sometimes. Sometimes it's not so straightforward, the message that you're writing, but it's so
some of them
specific
can be
at
quite
the same time.
straightforward.
Oh yeah, oh, yeah. Then we have the other art form, and I do believe it's an art form. We have comedy, and Flint kind of picked up on that.
I did.
Flint directed me to a lot of his videos to look at it. It's like a lot of comedy videos. Where does that inclination come from, Flint?
Well, I don't take too much seriously, to tell you the truth.
Okay, what about you, Al? What do you take seriously?
What do I take seriously?
Yeah, you guys do take.
I take
what
my
you-
health seriously.
Good. Flint, your health.
Sure.
But you guys take what you've always done. You're still doing it. What you've done that you can call the graffiti world. You guys take this seriously. Is that right?
Absolutely. I was a carpenter for 38 or somehow close to 40 years.
I've been
and
there.
I make my living now as an artist. So I mean which is a blessing, and I'm
Isn't it?
quite
Oh, yes.
grateful for that. But I do it full time. I'm serious about it, but I don't take myself too seriously. 'Cause
Which I
otherwise-
think is good.
Which I think would be would kind of kill the whole thing.
Yeah, I think you always have to be able to laugh at yourself.
Yeah,
at
you
times,
gotta.
too.
Yeah, you gotta have kind of a lighten it up.
Is that where it comes from, Flint?
Exactly.
Yeah, I noticed you laughing at yourself
all the
in
time.
your videos.
It's,
Yeah.
Sure. Things don't always turn out as you wanted or as you expected, but you aim high in your life. You have big dreams, so you'll be someplace up there. You might not get to the top. Maybe Al did.
No, I mean, where's my swimming pool and my big house and my
It'll
chauffeur
come, it'll
and
come.
all that, so that it's like, I mean, you get some success, but you bust your ass.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
like you. It's not like it just dropped on you. You have
Oh
to be
no,
proactive.
Al, that happened
know?
to me when I was working the regular job. I would get all the time with guys that came out of the Navy and the Air Force. I had a technical job, and these guys were brilliant technicians. And what did you do, Doug? Well, you went to college, right? Yeah. Oh, you partied. I said, I beg your pardon. I did not party in college. Well, what college did you go to? Well, I went to SVA. I went to art school. Oh, so you really partied.
Right.
I said, I beg your pardon. I worked my butt off because that's what I was serious about. That's what I wanted to do.
Yep.
So, you guys are up to projects now. Is that right, Al? You got a big thing
Always,
going on right now?
every single day.
You and Flint is involved with it too? I'm glad to
involved
hear
with some
Flint's
of these
involved.
things, a
Yes,
little bit.
we are actually working on putting together a concise history of New York City graffiti culture, but from the point of view of the participants. And we've put together like a core group of influential graffiti people, writers,
Right.
from mostly first. Yeah, so far it's first generation. We're trying to generate a core group that will excite other people to be involved.
And are
So
there
I
any
have people like Jay Edlin, who wrote Graffiti 365, Eric Deal, Ferris Bled, who wrote a New York City graffiti book. I have Chris Pape, who's going to contribute, who was he wrote the catalog for Beyond the Streets, and he's he's the Freedom Tunnel guy. People who are not only published but are authorities in actual graffiti artists, first generation New York City
great.
graffiti artists who have academic inclination, not academics, but people who have actually published books and are good historians with the story of graffiti. Flint, who's an influential Brooklyn-based graffiti guy who's very well connected with the ex-Vandals and all these other earlier guys. He's a very early graffiti artist, 69 or something like that. Or,
Pretty
Yeah,
early,
I heard
yeah.
you were what, 9 years old when you started
And-
making graffiti?
Well, yeah, I was in the 60s.
Wow.
Yeah,
And-
but it takes years to develop.
You know, does this qualify, guys? When I was in the 8th grade, okay, so that was still in the 60s, all right?
Yeah.
I came up with the name Da Doug, like the D-A Doug. Does
Yeah.
that qualify as like a
only if you wrote it on the wall.
I mean, if you
never wrote it on a wall.
say if you wrote it just on your bathroom mirror with lipstick, that doesn't count.
It doesn't count.
So, Flint,
Graffiti is
you're
very-
giving up some secrets now, Flint? Bathroom with
Very specific
Yes.
requirements and
Uh-huh.
criteria. So we have Jester, who's a iconic style master. I had a Staff 161, who another iconic style master from the Bronx. Who else? Duke 9, one of the early white boys from the A line. I guess he was from far out in Queens somewhere.
Oh, so you go by the train line.
The train lines
Yeah.
and the neighborhoods.
And the neighborhoods.
It's very important.
And the
then-
trains had a lot to do with you guys connecting, too.
Well, that
of
was
course,
our
right?
internet.
That was, oh,
It was
wow.
our
I love that
internet.
outlet.
If a guy like Duke 9, I don't know what part of Queens Duke is originally from, but he would end. He was writing with Vinny and Captain America, CA, Is the Wiz, those guys. But if you're hitting the A line in Far Rockaway, it's going all the way to 200 and what was
Right.
it, 200 and whatever street, or 205th Street or whatever it is in Washington Heights. That's the longest running line in the city. So that's going to go through Bed-Stuy. It's going to go through the West Village. It's going to go through all over New York, and that's your internet. And all these people are seeing that. And it started out in a yard somewhere near the airport, you know. So that it's very important. It's also very important to tell the story of this, like the socioeconomic cross section of where
Right.
the graffiti artists came from. Some of us were from the projects. Some of us were from Harlem. Some of us were from the Upper West Side. Somebody in doorman buildings. So a culture that crosses all those lines, you know, there's something special to be said about that, especially because the fact that it starts in Philly and New York, that's another debate. There was a zeitgeist in the air where, you know, people in Philly were doing the same thing at the same time without us really being completely aware of each other.
Right.
Other than the fact that, once again, like me traveling to the Washington Heights, there were guys who were going back and forth to Philly, like T-Rex, T-Rex and who was the other Philly guy? Purple Haze 168. These guys had a Philadelphia platform style.
But you guys took such chances, though. You guys were the elite ones that were willing to go out and take those chances, to travel the neighborhoods, to do it at night, to hide in the shadows,
It was
to
a
do the
mission,
secret.
you know,
Right,
when you
right.
You had to do that.
Right.
I mean, you had to do it. Otherwise, your name wouldn't be seen.
Right.
It was part of the, you know, it's like part of the trip.
So that gets to, there's a very famous artist that you guys probably have heard of from our generation that was interviewed by Charlie Rose. He's now a director also, Julian Schnabel. And he
Yeah.
said that artists are completely obsessed with death. So when I try to think of what does he mean by artists are completely obsessed with death, I respect his opinion, but that kind of discussion, that kind of where you said you have to leave your mark, you wanted to leave your mark, although you know that's not going to last forever. Trains come and go, you know, but the reason why I brought it up, I wanted to get at was when you guys were young, you obviously were real young. What was the first time, it's a question I always ask every artist that I meet, what was the first time that you thought that you were truly creative in life? And I can explain what I mean. And I can't stand the answer. Well, when I was in kindergarten, I was handed crayons. Everybody was handed crayons in kindergarten, right? But when I was 7 years old, I thought that there had to be a mathematical equation that could predict the exact time and date of my death, of my demise. It's pretty dark thinking for a 7-year-old, you know?
That is dark.
But I look back and I realize that that was probably my first creative instinct, not picking up crayons in kindergarten. So do you guys, if you don't know one offhand, any life event? I'd love to hear about some exciting life events. You guys do some chase scenes, maybe? Any chase scenes in your lives?
Plenty of chase scenes. There's no shortage of chase scenes. But the most first note.
First time, you may not have realized it
realizing
at
that there was some creative. Oh, there was a few. I don't know. I don't know if there was one that I remember
the time.
first.
You're lucky if there were a few.
If there was
Yeah.
that first, I don't. It's not. Yeah, that's not. It doesn't pop right out at me. I mean, I'm sure if I were to.
But it will. We'll
really
talk again.
revisit that question.
Yourself, Flint?
Yeah, well, you mentioned crayons. Just want to tell you, I was the black sheep of the family, so always getting into trouble. So I didn't make my folks too proud of me, but eventually they warmed up to me. But in kindergarten, we had parent day where all the moms come, and we had to do some drawing with crayons, and the teacher was like, "Who knows what happens when you mix all your crayons?" And I was like, "Yeah, you get black. You get black." And that made my mother proud that I was able to answer a question in school. Since I was
Get a dark color.
Get a
a
dark
very
color.
dark,
muddy
muddy color.
Muddy,
so,
yeah.
'cause
And it's so ironic that with light and what Newton discovered, that all light, all colors are in the color
In white.
white light.
And
right?
and dark and black is absence of
Absence of
light,
color. And of
yeah.
course, the artistic conversation about black, Anish Kapoor, the big lima bean in Chicago, right? He just recently purchased, there was some black paint that was developed by the British military that was the blackest, darkest black that was almost invisible. People would swear that they were looking at something invisible. And there were only like 10,000 gallons of it produced. Well, Anish Kapoor bought all 10,000 gallons
Look
of
at
it. So an artist owns that paint.
that's something.
Just a little trivia fact. We were talking to you before. You had a lot of trivia, Flint. Would you guys be willing to come back for another interview at a later date?
Sure.
Al, you're selling T-shirts, are you?
T-shirts? No.
You're not selling
no,
T-shirts anymore?
I do occasionally.
Okay.
I don't. They don't make a living from the
Would-
T-shirts. But the
anything you like to-
gallery where
Yeah, you want to
I'm
plug something now?
I'm showing at a gallery in Lower Manhattan
Okay.
that I have a regular relationship with, as
Okay.
I've showed there frequently. So it's Vanderplas Gallery, 156 Orchard Street.
Orchard Street, great neighborhood.
Yeah, and it's and my show is up there is up until October 16th, 17th.
Okay, that's the
It is-
Vanderplas Gallery,
Yeah.
Vanderplas, right?
Exactly.
Vanderplas Gallery at
156 Orchard.
156 Orchard.
And he's actually he made a bunch of Samo shirts. Samo
Awesome,
since
awesome, okay.
1978 shirts,
Mhm.
and they're selling them there. But my book, Samo since 1978, is also available from my website store doesn't seem to be functioning yet.
Okay.
But you can get it from me through my email, which is al@al-diaz.com.
Okay, it's Al at Al
Dash
Diaz, AL-DIAZ .com.
Yeah.
Easy enough. Al at al-diaz.com. Anything would you like to tell us about?
Well, sure. Since the pandemic started, I've been doing a lot on YouTube.
Okay,
So,
you've
but
been
what-
seeing a lot on YouTube.
I want everybody to subscribe. That's what I need.
Okay.
More subscribers.
More subscribers.
Two.
So it's just, youtube.com/fine art photos. That's FINEART. I spell photos FOTOS
Right.
because all the PHOTOS were taken. But I'm European anyway, so FOTOS is natural for me.
Right, right, exactly.
Photo.
Like Italian, right. So, chase scenes.
Chase scenes. Chase scenes. One time, I see somebody. I think maybe AFX2 or somebody. We got our hands on some token bags,
Oh,
They
my
used
goodness.
they used to deliver the tokens
Right,
in these
right.
canvas bags.
Do we need to
So-
explain what tokens are? at this
Tokens
point?
are before there was a Metro car. There were these tokens. They were like
Brass tokens, right?
brass tokens. They had like the Y
NY,
stand.
yeah,
The
yeah.
Y. It said NYC, but the Y was hollow,
Right.
so that it was see through. NYC, and it was the New York City Transit's token. Each one
They were
was worth
valuable.
one fare, whatever that fare was. It
Right.
depends at different times.
Right,
I
right.
mean, I remember when there was it was a 25 cents fare, then it was.
Oh, you don't go
50.
back so far there
Then
now.
it was 70
25 cents?
Yeah, I remember I got
I go back to
those
10 cents.
the 10 ones.
Yeah.
I have a
Okay.
collection of tokens.
Okay.
And I do
Awesome,
have the
awesome.
10-cent token.
Okay.
But yeah, at one point I remember for a long time it was $1.75 or something.
Right, right.
Anyway, so the tokens came in these canvas bags. They would be delivered and picked up and transported in these thick canvas bags, and they were MTA stripes all over them, property of the MTA. So it was a cool, fun thing to have for a graffiti artist to have a token bag, right? Except that they can get you in trouble. Because one time I was on the platform, the IRT Uptown 4 and 5, 6 platform at Union Square, back when Union Square had a lot of kiosks. There was like a hot dog stand and record stores, all sorts of stuff throughout the subway station on the mezzanine. So what happens? A detective saw me. Undercover. He was plain clothes guy. He sees me with the bag, and I got 2 cans of paint. Why the fuck did I put paint in the can? I was supposed to meet AFX or some. I think it was AFX. So he's like coming towards me, and of course I fled. I saw the guys coming at me, and I start running with the bag under my arm.
Now, this was an empty bag?
No, it's
It's
got
a
2 cans of paint.
Oh, okay.
It's a can-
Okay,
I remember
okay.
one can was orange, red devil paint.
Right, right,
I
okay.
forgot what the other color was, but I ran through the station. I ran, and I was pretty fast. I was a fast runner. So the guy's like huffing and puffing behind me. He radioed ahead. Some guy comes out of nowhere and socked me like while I'm running, hit me right in the stomach. So I fell down out of air. He
Knocked the wind out of you.
Yeah, knocked the wind out of me.
Uh-huh.
And then so the guy catches up. He's like, "This son of a bitch," and he's huffing and puffing. And then he opens the bag and says, "Oh, graffiti." He didn't know that that's what was inside the
Oh.
bag.
They thought it was a bag
So
full
they
of
take
tokens.
they take me into a room, like one of the utility room or whatever. And there was a couple of guys already in there, cops. So he calls my mother.
Oh, no.
They were total gentlemen. They didn't hit me or anything.
Right,
They would
right,
just
right, okay.
sit there because I was a kid. I mean, I'm like 14, 15 years old. What, are they gonna beat me up for graffiti? They didn't do that. They called my mom, who worked 2 blocks down. She was at the New York Eye and Ear Infirmary. She worked there for 25 years. So she comes and slaps the shit out of me in front of. They're like, "Yeah, get him out of
that's
here."
what they wanted to see.
She's like, "Bap, bap, 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 bap," and they were like, "See ya." That was it. That was the extent of my. I mean, they didn't want to deal with it. It was just like, "Get him out of here." And that was a memorable chase. I mean, I've been chased many times, but that one really comes to mind because it
Oh,
was.
yeah.
It
Mom
was
got
kind of
mom had to
embarrassing.
get
More than
involved.
anything, it was embarrassing.
What about you, Flint?
Yeah, so been chased many times.
Right.
One time, I knew a lot of writers, Pistol, and I was invited to go to the layups, and we were all going to attack the trains, top to bottoms. So you had Phase 2 there. You had a lot of writers, a lot of good writers. But the cops came. They chased all of us. So we had to each go our separate ways and run. A good friend of mine actually tried to get up a fence, and he couldn't do it, and he got snagged. Another friend of mine, they spray painted his face. Or they
Yeah.
they did something like that. See, you'd be surprised. In the beginning of writing, the cops didn't know what to do with us. Later
Right.
when it was such vandalism and in the news, they really
Absolutely true. I heard
do some
stories.
scrubbing or whatever,
Yeah.
go to court. But in the beginning, the cops, they let him go. His mother, they knew his mother would take care of him.
Right.
I'd like to get into that some more, but just like to acknowledge that we're online tonight. We're live tonight. We have a live audience this evening. We have Kenny Graham. He's just the brilliant genius behind Hub 17. I mean, guys, you are at the coolest place on Staten Island. And well, Staten Island's the coolest place to begin with, but that's arguable. But you're at the coolest. This is where the cool kids hang out. Okay, we do have an audience watching us live tonight. So if there's anything, we do have. I was just going to ask if there's anything anything we would like to ask. And Kimbra Eberly is asking, is it different from you guys then than the graffiti artists today? Well, can you guys go into what's different today? And I have something I'd like to add to that too. What's different today that?
Well, if you want me to start.
Yes, please.
See, it all started with a marker. So we were all writers. Now, years later, we're artists. Well, the guys who are real artists are real artists, doing top to bottoms or whatever they're doing, or doing canvases. But, it just started with a marker. Not even, I use a marker most people never heard of, the El Marco. It was
I remember the old mark.
I remember
it was
that
a
vaguely,
marker that they actually had TV commercials
Yeah,
on
that's
TV
probably
because
why I remember.
Zorro in the '60s was a serial show. It was a whatever they call it, sitcom, whatever it was. And so they had like a guy with a horse or something, and he had a marker, and he would do his Z or whatever he would
With the
do.
whip.
The whip, whatever it was. And so they actually had commercials for markers back then. Dry Mark 2 came up. Dry Mark was very good, very big.
Toy markers, we call them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah.
Dry
because
mice.
that was before the pilots or Nijis or anything else. But everything evolved, and that's what it is. So I'm a dinosaur.
So what about imagery? So that's what I
Well,
wanted
to
to bring up.
answer her question
Yeah.
about there's I think one of the key differences in like early graffiti culture and nowadays is the players are much older, because the average writer in the first generation was between 12 and 15 years old, and somebody who wandered in who was older was viewed suspiciously. It's like, what is this old dude doing here, And so it was a kid culture, and now it's a lot more sophisticated. There's companies that are dedicated to make. I mean, they got this low pressure spray paint. They have all sorts of stuff. There's an entire industry that's designed to provide material for graffiti making, which seems insane. And we were creating the equipment. We didn't buy anything. If you were buying your paint, I mean, you'd be like laughed. You'd go home shamed, because buying paint was just not cool. You didn't want anybody. If you did, you didn't want anybody to know that.
What was the alternative?
To steal it. We stole
okay,
everything.
stole.
We stole our markers. Racking up was part of being a graffiti artist. You had to be able to steal your stuff.
It was pretty
Silly me, I thought
yeah.
the Renaissance artists, like you mixed your.
mixture. Well, we do that with the
We
You
did
do
that
that
too.
too. Yeah.
the minis and the ultras.
Exactly. We
Yeah.
innovated a lot of things.
That's awesome.
We were creating all sorts of stuff. But it was a delinquent culture, and it was not about spending money. Nobody had any money. You're
Right.
like, what kind of money does a
kid have.
13-year-old have?
Yeah, so you'd be
So-
really surprised. They walk into a store and they walk out and they got spray paint all over the place, in their socks, in their
Yeah, there was
underwear,
some guys who could
cans-
walk out with
cans-
10 cans,
10 cans.
Yeah.
Not
I
uncommon.
used to go in there with an empty shopping bag and just racking paint. That was part of
That was it.
Part of the culture was being a good shoplifter.
Yeah.
And it was kind of required. So that was very important. And once again, there was a young culture. So you're talking about children.
Yeah, so I
You
just
know?
want to say something about something else that you mentioned, because how's everything evolved, and there are companies out there that I'm not saying they rip off graffiti artists, but I walk into a restaurant, I see things that are mass produced, and they look beautiful. It's all graffiti art. That's what it is. It's like, but I know a graffiti artist didn't do it. You know, like some other artist did it, and he's making a lot of money on it. More power to him. That's all I can say. But
Right.
I do want to say one thing, because my friend Tracy, he coined the word wild style. Okay,
Right.
he was the one who made that saying. So he's always upset with the whole industry because they made a movie with that name. They Pepsi Cola put out a soda can that was called Wild Style, and he sued him. He sues everybody. He wants to sue me too. But Tracy, I'm sticking up for you. I'm going to mention your name. But yeah, so that's what happens. Things. Everybody bites everything, but that's how things evolved. I learned a lot from the graffiti culture. When I started writing, there was no bombing or top to bottoms or all of that stuff. That came afterwards, and I learned.
Well, I'll tell you what
from
I
people
noticed
too.
was that, especially what I noticed happening, it was a large evolution with when the people started coming in doing murals. I got to be honest, the graffiti artists seem to offer a lot of respect to the artists that came along and put all that effort into making a single large wall artwork, and nobody tagged over it. But I've just recently seen two phenomena happen when the shutdown occurred, right? If there were a wall that were empty, the kids got it. It was like the kids were out during the shutdown, the graffiti kids were out. Also, I just saw a wall that was a beautiful mural, and somebody tagged over the mural.
Yeah, they do that regularly. That depends on the individual. I don't know about respect for graffiti artists have any like special respect that any particular graffiti artists have for street art per se, for murals, because I've seen actual hostility towards people who do murals. And I've seen, just like kind of oblivion, like they don't even notice that they might be damaging somebody's efforts. But that's the nature of art in a public space. If you appropriate public space, you can't try to have ownership because it's an ephemeral surface, and
Right.
and somebody's going to come over and just fuck it up, and without even intent. It could be malicious, and it could be just haphazard, like I wanted my name here, not even noticing it.
Yeah.
So it's that's hard to say. That you'd have to be inside that person's mind
what-
to know whether it was a malicious intent or whether it's just because they don't even see it.
I mean, to me, it was so obvious that it was a mural on the wall. But I get that. I mean, especially the ephemeral. So there you have it for your answer to, is it going to last forever? Like,
It
there
will
were
not
those,
last forever.
Right, it's not going to last forever.
No, if you
know?
want it to last forever, you need to
Right.
put it on a piece of canvas
the
and put it away in like a time capsule.
The irony is, I heard you talk about the origins of in one of your videos, the origins of graffiti, and I know you've done something to that effect. Samo was here; he was telling me about the Kilroy was here image, and but
yeah.
there were those theorists that said the first graffiti really was when somebody stuck their hand in some pigment and then put their handprint on a wall in a cave somewhere 30, 40,000 years
That's
ago.
it.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say that. I
That's
would
it.
give that.
There was a need to do that. I was here,
I was here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just read that.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, that's why I make a
Yeah,
difference.
berry juice or something like that.
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
KRS-One. KRS-One was talking.
There was a
about that.
graffiti artist too that would sign at the corner of his images. He would put his handprint. There was a graffiti artist. That
But
would
it's
do that.
yeah. I mean, it goes back as far as I mean, like Pompeii, they found graffiti, right?
Right, exactly.
So it's yeah. It's not like a new thing.
No, it's just, name-based modern graffiti is a newer thing.
Right,
The late
it is.
60s, and it took off, and we all had the same idea at the same time because here's a marker, this is something that I could do. A little kid could get a marker, spray paint, so we all did it, and we all...
But you guys were also noticed by like the city and giving some kind of kudos,
Well,
right?
because
Well-
we went on to doing other things.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I mean, I started out doing Bomb One, which was my tag back then, and I did that until I was about 17, and then I switched schools because I was kicked out of high school of art and design because I didn't go to class because I was too much of a graffiti artist. So it became an addiction that changed my life, right? So I couldn't stop doing it. It got me into trouble, etc., etc. I go to another school. I stopped doing it because I'm getting a little older and I've been doing it for so long. I mean, when you're 16 or 17 and you've done something since you were 12, that's a huge chunk of your life. That's a third of your life. 5 years is a third of your life if you're 15, right? So you already have that as an identity. It becomes who you are. So when I left art and design, I went to City as a school, which was an experimental school. So I was now into a new chapter of my life. And that's where I met Jean-Michel Basquiat.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I thought the three of you met in high school, though. Did you meet?
So we...
Okay.
He didn't go to art and design. No, he went to Edward R. Murrow before that, and then a bunch of other schools. But that's where we met, and that's where we created Samo as this concept that was based on using Flint's template, the ellipsis of Flint, Samo ... like Flint ... in a very legible print, but inspired by the religious, mysterious graffitis that had been around during the 60s and 70s, which was pray and Jesus saves, because it was this kind of mysterious, message of some ominous, like, religious thing that was happening, and we wanted to have that edge.
You do have that. Sometimes your work is the writing that you.
Well, it tries to be a little philosophical.
I get
now,
that.
Now, as an adult, but because now I'm actually. But back then, it was a spoof. It was based on. It started out as a spoof.
You described it earlier off camera. I'd love to hear you describe it about kids. You were just a bunch of kids.
A couple of wise ass teenagers, with strong opinions.
With strong opinions.
Yeah. So, and we wanted to voice those opinions, and then it's like it started out, and we were talking about within a year, right? It started. We did. Samo did not last that long. It's another misinformation thing. It started. In the very January of 1978, we actually started writing it, and it basically ended by the time December of '78. There was a article in the Village Voice that basically outed us as Al and Jean. So now, as far as I was concerned, there was no need to continue to pursue it because we're no longer anonymous, and it was an anonymous project. So it's okay, game over, right? Like you're tagged,
you gotta respect
it's
that.
over.
You gotta respect.
So
that.
that's people. I mean, after that, Jean-Michel used Samo as his kind of like identity,
right?
Because he needed a springboard to talk to people in the art scene and say, I'm the guy who did Samo,
right?
And that's where that's where the story starts to get murky.
Right. Well, I honestly didn't want to make tonight about Jean-Michel. I wanted to make it about you guys.
When we're talking about Samo, right? If we're talking about Samo,
right.
we cannot talk about Samo without talking about Jean-Michel.
But I wanted everybody to meet you two guys and hear the lives that you guys have had. Right. So, I mean, I really appreciate that you guys have come out and shared all this with us today. It's been terrific. Al, you had a story once about a detective that wanted to see you in a...
wanted to see me.
Yeah, you had done there was a particular matron in a subway station.
When I got busted
would you please tell that story, because I love the story.
The story is that in 2016, around the time that Trump was right, actually the day that they read off the election results, and we had Donald Trump as the president, I was so flabbergasted, I guess. I was like, wow, this is where we're at.
I know.
And I had been doing these messages using my subway icons, but this is a constrained alphabet. This is not a full alphabet. I'm missing an H, a K, a V, an X, and a Y. So there's a lot of things that you can't say, especially now I've gotten much better at it, at using a constrained alphabet. But I needed to and I once again, I was doing my continuing text graffiti, and or text work. And at that point, I said, okay, now I got to bring back Samo. And there was a couple of reasons. It was because I was a little tired of hearing the misinformation about, like, people didn't understand what Samo was. They thought it was Jean-Michel's nickname or something like that. So it was an opportunity to give examples of what actual Samos were by, well, me bringing back Samo. And now motivated by the fact that there was a lot to talk about. The fact that Americans had chosen to vote to elect Donald Trump, I felt that there was something that needed to be talked about.
Oh,
you know?
yes.
So I brought back Samo, and I had I had 2.5 years of a run on the subway stations without getting caught, which is a good run.
That is a good one.
You know, and I'm already. It was 2019 when I got locked up, so I was still 59, and I turned 60 in June, but I was arrested in January, February, but I wasn't caught doing it. It was a cleaning lady, a West Indian cleaning lady. Who they had been for the cleaning people on the R line had been informed to keep an eye out for this guy who's writing the same old stuff, because I was hitting the same station.
They didn't have wanted posters, did they?
They didn't, but they don't need to. They just tell the maintenance people, watch out for this guy. See if and she spoke to me. She's like, she know what this would happen. Me and my girlfriend. It was January. We just come back from the BAM, from the Brooklyn Academy of Music, seeing a film, and she gave me a funny, because I'd seen her before and she had seen me before, and she gave me a funny look when we came into the subway. It was cold, so I walked to the front of the station. She had one of those polishing machines like
So she really
like
cares
a
for that
Zamboni
station.
guy. So she follows. No, she didn't follow me. I'm down there with me and my girlfriend are like, okay, I'm gonna. And something. Yeah, this was funny. It's something. Always follow your gut feeling. Something told me, don't fucking tag, don't tag. So what do? I pull out the Pilot, my favorite marker, and tag. And I wrote I forgot what I wrote. But she comes down, right? She follows down, and she goes around the corner, sees the tag, and she goes, that wasn't there a minute ago. And then she touched it, and the ink was still wet. She goes, you did it. She goes, you're that guy that's writing that. And then she went as far as to tell me a Samo that she had read. She goes, you're that guy that made the comment about all these people not noticing you because they're too busy looking at their phones while you're writing, which was a Samo that I did. And I was like, holy shit, this lady is out.
She's a follower of Samo.
They're looking for you. She was like, she's a Jamaican lady. I said, oh, shit. She said, them looking for you. So then she goes to take a picture of me and me and my girlfriend at that point turned around and fled. So about 2 weeks later, I'm in the basement. I'm signing prints with a guy, my friend Brian Hamill, Pepper Spray Press. We do screen prints together. And Dave Navarro, from the Jane's Addiction, who's a friend and a collaborator. He's down there. I was just signing prints. He's down there, and I get a phone call from fucking NYPD, and it's like just a phone, right? And he goes, "Oh, this is Officer blah blah blah. I'm sorry that we have to meet this way, Mr. Diaz, but we received a complaint about." I'm like, who the fuck is playing games with me on the phone? And then I realized this is real. This dude, he goes, I see you haven't. And so he's reading my rap sheet. He says, I see you haven't been in trouble in about 9 years. Blah blah blah. I was like, oh man, this is real. So he goes, come down to the fifth. What is it? The fifth. Was the 5-2, is it, near my house? I think it's the 5-2. The local precinct. And we'll give you a DAT, desk appearance ticket, and call it that. It'll be over simple. So I'm thinking, oh, these guys are going to try to slap the cuffs on. I just don't trust cops, right? So sure enough, I blocked the number and all that shit, which is, I mean, that's like ridiculous because these guys have any number of phones to call you on the next time. So I remember I had gone to Puerto Rico for like a week, and when I came back, I get another call. Right, this is weeks later, and it's like, sorry, Mr. Diaz, it's me again, but this time we have a warrant because you didn't respond to come into the DAT. I was like, so they were serious. They were serious about the DAT. I could have gone in and squashed it with a desk appearance ticket. So no, I had to show up. I had to get a criminal lawyer, which costs a little money. It costs a little money for one day. Like he's working 3, 4, I don't know, maybe 8 hours, but it costs several grand. I go to I give myself up. They lock me up. They put me through the system. And I'm not a stranger to the system, so I 8 hours in the clink. I saw the judge. She's like, get out of here with no conditions. Just like, because why? Because my lawyer worked for the DA's office. They have lunch together. He knows they all by they call each other by their nicknames, right? So he's one of them, and I was dismissed. Oh, and then there was a stipulation on the arrest saying that the plaintiff wanted a what do you call it, order of protection, like, as if I was going to attack this old lady. I was like, I'm not going to. And the judge just said, get out of here.
Well, I gotta say that
like, this ain't going to happen.
That's some story.
We've all heard that graffiti artists are pretty. I'm sure through the years we've all heard that graffiti artists are pretty badass, but I think that we met a couple of the sweetest guys in the graffiti world right here in Alan Flint. We got Kenny. Did we get any more questions from outside? At what point did it become hide their identity? I noticed a lot of art. The question is, at what point did it become incognito, where the artist had to hide their identity? I think that was more by choice, right? That was who was that at first? Banksy with the, and then there was.
Well, he does that. I mean, that's part of his mystique. But
Right.
I mean, there's that whole aesthetic of the younger graffiti artists who are always photographed. I mean, some of them because they are probably actually. Wanted by the Transit Vandal Squad, which is the unit that contacted me, and they really exist. They're a real thing. The New York Citywide Vandal Task Force. That's a real thing, and they will find out. The guy called me on my cell phone, so it's like he called me on my phone. It's like, you know what? They're probably coming to your art shows. They follow you on Instagram. If you're an active graffiti artist, you may want to hide your face, but I'm fairly well-known individual, so it's not like I was hiding anything, I was damn near posting pictures of myself tagging. So I asked for it, but it was with a purpose. I mean, I did it for that purpose of re-owning Samo, of putting it out there, of showing what Samo tags were, so that people would know what they're not this like. They don't know anything about. The only Samo tag they knew was Samo was dead, or Samo for the so-called avant-garde, which is what Virgil or the estate or Art Star had been, trying to push, and that's a whole nother story. Is the ownership of Samo, Diaz versus Basquiat and all that. That's a whole I mean, because everybody wanted to own it, And which I had, I've had to struggle with that in terms of legally trying to take control of it. It's a mess. It's people, when things become popular, it becomes greed works its way into the picture,
Well, it's
just they want to sell your product, but like as if it's public domain, which it is not.
Yeah, it's just like if you're a good actor and you make a lot of movies, people actually feel like they know you. Even though you're an actor, you're playing a role, but still they feel like they know you, and that's how it is. But So
Well-
if I could answer
Yeah,
a question real
please.
fast. In the beginning, I did not want anybody to know that I was writing Flint.
Okay.
It was my secret identity. I was like this little guy, this little white guy, and whatever. Never was very clueless about everybody. Had no friends. Whatever. So that's why I wrote it, so I could be somebody. So I
Right.
could be somebody special. And I would hear people talking about, did you see what Flint wrote? Did you see this? Did you see his latest writing?
You would hear this as if
Yeah,
you
I
were,
would hear
they
that.
didn't know
They
you
had
were
no
Flint.
idea.
That was
Just like,
nice. That must have been
He
nice.
goes through the same thing, or he went through the same thing. I mean, by the time I went to high school, I was already a famous writer, graffiti artist, and I was using the name Flint in school, but the teachers really didn't know that I was the writer, because I would have been probably kicked out or whatever. And I was a bad type of guy. Anyway, I got kicked out of almost every grade that I was in, from intermediate school up. So I just want to tell you that. So a lot has happened.
Yeah, but you know what? So you were a troublemaker, and Al, I kind of sense that you were probably a troublemaker too. But looking back on it, isn't troublemaking kind of a good thing, if you're making the right kind of trouble?
I wasn't a
You know?
troublemaker. I got into trouble
Got
for
into
myself,
trouble.
but I wasn't
Yeah.
a troublemaker for like other people.
No,
think a
no, I didn't mean-
troublemaker, like some
I didn't
loud
mean like
person.
that, yeah.
I got myself into trouble usually on like some silly stuff, but I was a fairly good student.
Good student.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it definitely comes through in the work. So tonight we got to meet Flint Gennari and Al Diaz. This was truly a pleasure, guys, that you came out here to do this. Would we be able to talk to you again in the future regarding these ventures that you've got going on right now? Again, Al is showing at Al. Can we get the dates and the times on that?
It's open. The show is open.
It's
the
already
gallery,
open.
The gallery is Vanderplas Gallery.
Vanderplas Gallery.
156 Orchard Street in the Lower East Side of New York City, Manhattan. Gallery hours are from 12 to 6 generally, and it's open Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week, basically. It's open on the show is up until October 16th. The closing is on October 16th.
You'll be there on October 16th?
I certainly.
So it'll be like a party?
Yeah, there will
Okay.
be a closing.
I would love to join for
closing
that.
event ceremony.
Okay.
No, not so much a ceremony.
October 16th.
But yeah.
Okay.
But it should be fun.
I'm going to definitely stop by to see the show.
Oddly enough, the work that's hanging is specific to it's images of me and Jean-Michel when we were between the ages of when I was 18 to 19 and we're 17, 18, 19, and we were being Samo. So that whole period is it's more poets. It's not so much of a linear storytelling, but it's poetic kind of images of us. There's not a lot of images from that period of us during that time. So I've reused some of the images over but it's in collage form and there's paintings, there's a mobile that I built and some just work on a mixed media work on wood and metal.
Great. I love to see it.
yeah.
So you have an ongoing relationship, affiliation with Vanderplas?
Yes, I do.
And that'll be the book.
I can call him a friend.
And that'll be the book also there involved with the...
My book is available there.
It's
definitely.
available there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They have copies
And again,
of
it's
the book.
available at al-diaz.com.
al-diaz.com.
Okay.
Also at Amazon Books. Yeah.
Oh, it's Amazon Books.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the book title?
Samo.
Samo.
Since 1978.
Cool. Awesome.
By Al Diaz.
Anything else you'd like to add? Mr. Flint?
I have a show up in it's near the Hamptons, and it's called Suffolk's Finest or Suffolk's Strongest, and it's a lot of artists. Some are graffiti artists, actually.
What gallery in the Hamptons?
It's called Suffolk's Strongest.
Oh, okay.
That's
Sorry.
what it's
Okay,
called.
Suffolk Strongest. Okay.
And I know the writers that are there is 876 and Sonic. But mostly it's other kind of artists.
And how long will that be up?
For another month.
Another month.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's pretty far out. Took me 2 hours to get out there from from Staten Island.
I,
But
I-
it's really a
I hope
great
it
show.
wasn't too hard for you guys to get here tonight. Can I ask you guys to come and visit us again somewhere down the line?
Probably, yeah, sure. Why
I'll
not?
feed you again.
It's not difficult to get here.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
We're at Hub 17 in beautiful Stapleton, downtown Stapleton in Staten Island. The genius behind Hub 17 is Kenny Graham. Kenny runs an amazing studio and gallery. I help him with the gallery. We got a lot of art shows coming up. And again, thank you so much, guys, for stopping out tonight. This has been great. I'd love to have you out here again. Great show. Thank you so much from Phyllis. That's coming out.
Big
Guys,
shows.
terrific.
Featherston.
Yes. All right, guys. Let's see. Anything else, Ken? Okay. All right. Thank you so much, guys, again.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
Good night.